Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Heritage. And on today's episode, we are back to looking at archaeological ruins, which we have not done in quite some time. And we are going to Al Qal'a of Beni Hammad, which is a mountainous site located in Algeria and is a quite an authentic, cool little viewpoint into a fortified Muslim city in one of the early days of Algeria and some of the earlier days of Islam. And this site specifically, founded in 1007 AD and demolished in 1152, provides quite a succinct little window of occupation and of relevancy, but it's pretty cool. It's actual archaeological ruins, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about 36 kilometers northeast of the what is the modern town of Mesilla. And the entire ensemble here was built for to serve sort of as a military fortification and capital for the Hammadid Emirate, which is a sort of Muslim theocracy out here. And this was sort of the beginning of Islam in Algeria. This was a major dynasty for that. And even though this capital really only lasts for just under 150 years, the level of dedication that gets put into this is on par with some of those cities that are meant to stand for centuries and centuries.
Very
Like
interesting.
Yeah. Like I believe the mosque alone, it remains to this day among the largest in all of Algeria. So that's the level of devotion people are putting into building this thing. It's something that they genuinely believed would stand for a millennia.
And this is where we really start using the term monumental, because this was a monumental complex. It was extremely large. It had um, a lot of different aspects to it that made it very important. And we talk about the mosque. This mosque was massive. The prayer hall alone comprised 13 naves of 8 bays, and it is one of the biggest after that of Mansoura, and it is one of the oldest in Algeria, which is unreal. And the ruins were witness to the refinement of the Hammad civilization, and it showed a lot of original architecture, the palatial culture of northern Africa, and this really came after the spread of Islam through this region. I mean, it emanated out of the Middle East and continued to radiate outwards, and this was just another projection of both the power of the Hamads, but also the influence. You could
Yeah.
see
And
that they were very religious oriented.
yeah, and that influence is very visible in what would be other emirates and societies throughout the Mediterranean. You see elements that are developed and, for lack of a better word, perfected here at Beni Hammad in Maghreb, Andalusia, and Sicily. So you see the architecture that they design and create in this place spreading outward. This was a point of cultural diffusion, even though it is, again, only stands for a century. It does its job, it leaves its mark. It is very, very potent.
I mean, it started as a small military stronghold and eventually went to the level of an entire metropolis. I mean, there were multiple palaces. The mosque, with just the size alone, can give you an insight into the size of the population because, you know, large cities have large mosques, small cities have small mosques. It's not going to be out of place to have a massive mosque here. And one of the things that I think is very cool about this is a very unmolested site. I mean, it's in the middle of the northern Sahara Desert, so it's in a very hostile region, but it's not been very thoroughly investigated. It's very much in its own little bubble. I'm sure there are investigations ongoing, especially if we're aware of it, but to see what's going to come out of this or what studies may happen. I know we talk about LiDAR in a lot of our other episodes. It'd be very interesting, in my opinion, to see a LiDAR map of this region because you can really get a scale and an insight into the expanse of these ruins, the site itself. You can get an idea as to just how monumental this settlement was.
And I think the fact that it has been sort of left alone by time really speaks to the efficacy of its original purpose, which was a fortress of last resort. So this thing is high in the mountains, at 1,000 meters above sea level, just away from everything. As a, you know, you can take the world. Good luck coming in here and getting me.
Well, and that does also pose an interesting scenario here because a lot of these sites that we talk about are very heavily touristed, and it to the point where it almost becomes a detriment to the resource itself because you need to build infrastructure around tourism. You need to have, restroom facilities, cafe facilities. You need to have a guest house or entrances, gift shops, that kind of thing to really support the tourist industry. This site sees maybe a couple of thousand a year. It really doesn't pose a massive threat to it.
Yeah, no. There is no tourism wave going here. And well, that means Algeria doesn't profit greatly off of having this. It also means that there is no threat to the structural and cultural integrity of the site that the endless hordes of people do, like we see at other places like Machu Picchu.
And while I don't think it's under direct threat of being bulldozed and built over, there is a town not too far away that does have some settlement and inhabitants nearby, so it potentially could get damaged by that, but its authenticity is as coherent of an ensemble as you can imagine. And
Yeah, and it's 36 kilometers or about 22 miles away, so it's just far enough where it's like it would need a major urban growth to start moving in on this turf.
which the site itself is protected by National Law 8804, which concerns the protection of cultural heritage, and management of the site is entrusted to the Office of Cultural Properties Management and Exploitation, which not the greatest name in my opinion, but it's understandable.
I appreciate that they're honest. That it is the Ministry of Cultural Exploitation. Like we understand.
But, they do have some level of protection in place. They do really need to implement a pretty stringent protection or management plan. I know we highlight that a lot, is the management plan, because you need to both know how to get the additional funding that's needed, the professional expertise, and also how you're going to combat other issues that may come down the line. Because 26 kilometers may not be bad, but that city that's a few kilometers away might end up having a huge population boom where everyone wants to move to the hills. In which case this becomes in the direct line of fire. But it is really cool, and it's an interesting change of pace because we've looked at a lot of historic city centers. We haven't looked at many archaeological sites or ruins in quite some time.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun to come back here. And it is a very fun what if game to play with the potential of this one town to impact this site. A major tourist boom could see the town move towards it. At the same time, the town moving towards it could cause a major tourist boom. Again, it's not what's happening, and that is a good thing. And we should all be grateful for that.
Potentially, you run a fine line where the tourism helps the local communities, and oftentimes the more visibility tends to lead to greater protection. But it poses a lot of interesting thought processes and a lot of interesting conversations that do need to be had in the upcoming future as to where do we go from here. And that's always the $1,000,000 question, is where do you go from here?
Yeah, and Beni Hammad has been a UNESCO heritage site since the year 1980. So in terms of getting the development and protections this has happened, and the next step needs to start happening because it's been, at the time of this recording, 44 years since they secured UNESCO protection. So, what is your next step with this? With this site?
Yeah. But
That
that's
is
a good point for us to wrap up. I think we talked about everything we can. And yeah, let us know what you guys think down below. Let us know what your thoughts are on this. And we'll see y'all in the next episode.